He was more than just a champion. He was an icon. A man who turned muscle into art and discipline into inspiration. His name crossed borders, from bodybuilding stages to Hollywood screens, and even today, he's remembered as one of the greatest of all time. The story you're about to hear is about someone who combined strength, aesthetics, and charisma like nobody else. So take a deep breath, lock in your focus, and you know the drill. Grab your pre-workout and join us on this journey. Get ready to discover how a legend was born, one that still lives on decades later, inspiring athletes, fans, and dreamers all over the world. Steve Reeves was born on January 21st, 1926, in Glasgow, a small town tucked away in Montana. His childhood wasn't easy. He lost his father in an accident when he was still just a baby, and from then on, his mother Goldie raised him alone. Life was simple, but packed with challenges that shaped his discipline and resilience. Who would have thought that this boy, growing up far from the spotlight, would become one of the biggest icons of physical culture and cinema? Even as a child, Steve got an unusual kind of recognition. He was voted the healthiest baby in Montana. Sounds funny, right? But that little award already hinted at his great genetics, and at the healthy lifestyle his mom encouraged from day one. Goldie was careful, always pushing him toward good habits and an active life. That foundation became a core pillar of his journey later on. During his teenage years, Reeves started standing out in all kinds of physical activities. He tried his hand at sports, loved arm wrestling competitions, and worked as a paperboy, delivering newspapers on his bike. That daily grind wasn't just pocket money. It gave him strong legs, especially powerful calves, building the base for the legendary physique he developed down the road. It's crazy to think that something as simple as pedaling around town was already shaping a future bodybuilding star. And it was actually at one of those arm wrestling contests that Steve had a life-changing moment. He lost to a smaller kid, who later revealed his secret weapon, weight training. That defeat sparked Reeves' curiosity about lifting. Determined to get stronger, he began training at home with improvised equipment. No fancy machines, no expert trainers, just pure grit. Every session was a chance to push past his limits, proving to himself that he could become stronger, faster, and tougher. That raw determination lit the spark of a career that would inspire generations. At 16, Reeves took a big step forward. He joined a real gym. That's where he discovered more structured training techniques, watched seasoned athletes in action, and realized bodybuilding could be so much more than a hobby. Barbells, dumbbells, complete routines. It all fueled his ambition to sculpt his body into something greater, something almost artistic. That's when a key figure entered the picture. Ed Yerrick, the owner of a gym in Oakland, California. Yerrick wasn't just a coach. He became a mentor, sharpening Steve's technique, correcting his form, and shaping his mindset as a competitor. Without that guidance, Reeves might never have reached the legendary status we know today. Then came World War II. Still young but already fueled by determination, Steve enlisted in the U.S. Army at 18, leaving behind his workouts and quiet life with his mom. For many, it was just a patriotic duty, but for Reeves, the military became a boot camp of discipline, resilience, and endurance. Assigned to the Philippines, Reeves worked hauling and organizing heavy supplies, ammunition, crates, military gear. The job demanded raw strength, and without realizing it, he was further sculpting his body. Each day was like functional training, reinforcing the foundation he'd already built in the gym. Every lift, every haul was a test of limits. Later, Reeves was transferred to Japan, where he served under none other than General Douglas MacArthur during the U.S. occupation. That chapter gave him not just a broader view of the world, but also the conviction that military discipline could be carried into any area of life, including the bodybuilding career he was so passionate about. Even in the middle of the chaos of war, Steve never gave up on bodybuilding. He improvised workouts with whatever he could find, makeshift weights, resistance drills, even heavy military gear. His passion for training was so strong that he ended up teaching exercises to other soldiers, inspiring his buddies to take care of their own strength and fitness. In a way, it was like he was already training his very first students. But the war also came with harsh setbacks. While stationed in the Philippines, Reeves contracted malaria, a brutal illness that left him weak and cost him nearly 25 pounds, about 11 kilos. For a young man who had already built strength and muscle, that kind of weight loss was a heavy blow. Still, the setback only highlighted his resilience. He refused to let it break him, and his recovery became yet another testimony to his determination. When he finally returned to the United States, Steve didn't just regain his health, he doubled down on his training. He turned the illness into motivation, proving that the human body can rebuild itself with discipline, patience, and willpower. This comeback was crucial, paving the way for him to step onto bodybuilding stages in the years that followed. That military chapter was a turning point in shaping Reeves' mindset. He learned that discipline and consistency mattered just as much as raw strength and aesthetics. Back home after the war, he was determined to make up for lost time. He attacked his training with renewed intensity and quickly stood out. In 1946, at just 20 years old, he won his first major title, Mr. Pacific Coast. The victory was so impressive that he returned the following year, defended the title successfully, and solidified himself as one of the sport's brightest new prospects. But Steve didn't want to just be a promising athlete. He wanted to be the best. Later in 1947, he traveled to Chicago and competed in the prestigious Mr. America. Winning that contest put him squarely in the spotlight of the fitness world. Back then, Mr. America was the crown jewel of U.S. bodybuilding, and Reeves, with his harmonious and aesthetic physique, was suddenly viewed as the very definition of physical perfection. Fans were captivated not only by his strength, but also by his classical beauty. 2 years later, in 1948, Reeves took his talent overseas to Cannes, France, where he competed in Mr. World. Once again, his flawless symmetry and proportions carried him to the top. He walked away with the title and expanded his fame internationally, proving that bodybuilding wasn't just an American trend, it was a global movement in the making. Then came 1950, the ultimate milestone, Mr. Universe NABA in London. Reeves claimed the overall title, reaching the peak of his competitive career. And right there, at just 24 years old, he decided to step away from the stage. He had achieved everything he dreamed of, leaving behind a legacy that most athletes would spend a lifetime chasing. What made Reeves stand out wasn't just the size of his muscles, it was his symmetry and golden ratio proportions. Unlike the extreme mass-focused physiques that would dominate decades later, he believed bodybuilding should celebrate the harmony of the human body, like a true work of art. That's why, even today, his build is remembered as the gold standard of male aesthetics. Another thing that set him apart was his stance on steroids. Reeves was a proud advocate of natural bodybuilding, insisting that discipline, proper nutrition, and rest were enough to achieve extraordinary results. That philosophy made him even more respected, especially at a time when artificial shortcuts and chemical enhancers were starting to creep into the sport. For that reason, many see Reeves not only as a champion, but as a symbol of integrity in bodybuilding. He proved that it was possible to build a legendary physique without cutting corners, an idea that went on to inspire generations of athletes, from Arnold Schwarzenegger to Frank Zane. With such a meteoric bodybuilding career, it didn't take long for Hollywood to notice. His stunning physique, combined with undeniable charisma, seemed tailor-made for the big screen. Soon enough, offers started rolling in, and Reeves began to dream of something beyond competition stages, becoming a movie star. Back then, though, it was unusual for Hollywood to cast bodybuilders in lead roles. In 1949, he nearly caught his big break. Legendary director Cecil B. DeMille considered him for the role of Samson in Samson and Delilah. Reeves threw himself into preparation, studying acting, and even dropping weight to meet the director's vision. In the end, the role went to Victor Mature. It was a tough disappointment, but that audition proved that Hollywood was willing to take Steve Reeves seriously. Steve Reeves' first appearances on the big screen were modest, but they laid the groundwork for what was to come. In 1954, he popped up in Jailbait by Ed Wood and Athena from MGM, playing the classic, muscular young guy. He also showed up on TV shows, building camera experience and polishing his presence as a performer. These were small roles, sure, but they were stepping stones that would soon launch him into stardom. That big break came in 1958 when director Pietro Francisci cast him in the lead role of Hercules. The film was shot in Italy on a shoestring budget, but Reeves took the job anyway. What happened next was beyond anyone's expectations. The movie blew up at the box office across Europe and later in the United States. Audiences were mesmerized by the muscular hero brought to life, and Steve Reeves became synonymous with Hercules himself. The success was so huge that in 1959 Reeves returned for Hercules Unchained, solidifying his image in what became known as the sword and sandal genre. From there, his career exploded with titles like The Last Days of Pompeii, The Thief of Baghdad, Morgan the Pirate, Romulus and Remus, The Trojan War, Son of Spartacus, and even The Swashbuckling Adventures of Sandokan, a hugely popular character in Italian cinema at the time. In total, Reeves starred in about 18 films, carving out a career that was both successful and incredibly profitable. At his peak, he was considered one of the highest-paid actors in Europe, an impressive feat for someone who had started in bodybuilding. While critics often poked fun at the simple storylines of his films, audiences kept coming back, drawn to the epic visuals and the sheer magnetism of Reeves himself. In doing so, Steve Reeves didn't just cross over into acting. He became a trailblazer, the first bodybuilder to achieve worldwide fame on the silver screen. His image as a mythological hero reshaped Hollywood's idea of a leading man and paved the way for athletes turned actors in the generations to come. But the height of his career also brought its toughest challenges. In 1959, while filming The Last Days of Pompeii, Reeves badly dislocated his shoulder after colliding with a tree during a chariot scene. The injury could have ended his acting career on the spot, but Reeves pushed through. With the same grit he had in bodybuilding, he insisted on continuing to perform his own stunts, despite constant pain. That determination, while admirable, came at a steep price. Each new stunt worsened the injury, and with the grueling demands of the film industry, he never truly healed. Known for refusing stunt doubles, Reeves handled his own fights, leaps, and dangerous scenes, which only sped up the wear and tear on his body. The damage reduced his mobility and left lasting consequences on his health. In the following years, Reeves kept starring in major sword and sandal productions, but the shoulder injury increasingly limited his performance. Filming grew more painful and demanding, and he could no longer deliver the same intensity as before. Still, movie theaters remained packed, proof that his charisma on screen more than made up for the physical toll he was facing. By 1968, after nearly a decade of cinematic success, Reeves decided it was time to retire. His final film was the Western A Long Ride from Hell, a project that was special to him since he also helped write and produce it. But between the lingering shoulder damage and the natural grind of the industry, he knew it was the right moment to step away. At just 42 years old, he bid farewell to the big screen, leaving behind a catalog of films that sword and sandal fans still celebrate to this day. Interestingly, Reeves also turned down roles that would later become iconic. He was considered for the very first James Bond in Dr. No, 1962, but walked away because of the low paycheck. He also passed on Sergio Leone's offer to star in A Fistful of Dollars, 1964, a role that ended up cementing Clint Eastwood as a spaghetti western legend. These decisions are often remembered as what could have been, but they show Reeves' character. He wasn't chasing fame at any cost. He valued his principles and quality of life more than blockbuster opportunities. Deep down, his priority wasn't stardom anymore. It was staying true to the healthy lifestyle he had always preached. What really set Steve Reeves apart, even compared to athletes today, was his training philosophy. While most believed you needed to spend endless hours in the gym nearly every day, Reeves championed a bolder idea: train only 3 times a week. His workouts were full-body sessions, targeting every muscle group in one go. To him, the secret wasn't volume. It was intensity, precision, and above all, recovery. Reeves believed rest was just as important as training. He often said that it's during recovery, not the workout itself, that your body actually grows and gets stronger. This perspective, far ahead of its time, helped him craft a physique that was massive yet balanced, without falling into the trap of overtraining. And it leaves us with a question worth asking. Are you truly giving your body enough time to recover, or are you just grinding non-stop without letting it grow? Steve Reeves' workouts weren't just about lifting heavy. They were carefully structured with purpose. He would start with shoulders, then move to chest, back, biceps, and triceps, finishing with legs, lower back, abs, and even neck work. There was a method to the order. Training the supporting muscle groups first boosted performance in the bigger lifts that followed, leading to better results overall. Every rep was done with flawless technique. No rushing, no shortcuts. That discipline became his trademark. Reeves openly criticized the classic cheating style in the gym, using momentum to finish reps instead of true muscle control. For him, each movement had to be clean and precise. 2 seconds on the way up, 3 seconds on the way down. Training wasn't just physical, it was mental, demanding focus and total concentration with every set. Another innovation that set him apart was his use of supersets, alternating between opposite muscle groups. For example, he'd follow a set of bench press for chest with a row for back. This approach sped up training, kept his body warm, and built balanced development between antagonistic muscles. What's common in gyms today was something Reeves was already pioneering decades ago. But his philosophy didn't stop at the weight room. Reeves also developed and popularized power walking, a brisk, intense form of walking designed for both cardiovascular conditioning and mental clarity. He encouraged gradually increasing speed and distance, treating walking as just as essential as lifting weights. For him, endurance and health mattered just as much as aesthetics. His diet was equally straightforward but effective. Reeves followed a ratio of about 60% carbs, 20% protein, and 20% fats, very different from today's high-protein bodybuilding diets. He ate just 3 meals a day, centered on whole, natural foods, avoiding sugar and refined flour. His supplements were homemade mixes, protein powder blended with fruit, honey, and even gelatin. It was proof that extraordinary results didn't require anything fancy, just consistency and smart choices. And the results spoke for themselves. Standing 6 feet 1 inch, 1.85 meters, and weighing between 205 and 215 pounds, 93 to 98 kilograms, Reeves looked like a statue come to life. His stats are still jaw-dropping. 18-inch, 46 centimeters, biceps, a chest around 51 to 52 inches, 130 to 132 centimeters, a razor-thin 29-inch, 73 centimeters, waist, 26-inch, 66 centimeters, thighs, and 18-inch, 46 centimeters, calves. His body was a masterclass in symmetry and proportion. Reeves wasn't chasing sheer bulk. He wanted to embody the ideal of classical aesthetics, echoing the statues of ancient Greece. Strength, balance, and elegance all rolled into one physique. That vision set him apart from his peers and made him the gold standard of bodybuilding aesthetics. No surprise that decades later, Muscle Mag ranked him among the top 3 most proportionate physiques of the 20th century. His influence went far beyond fans. Legends like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Lou Ferrigno, Frank Zane, and Reg Park all cited Steve Reeves as a defining inspiration in their careers. Even in Hollywood, actors such as Sylvester Stallone admitted to modeling themselves after Reeves' blend of strength and beauty. What's remarkable is that Reeves built all this without modern tools. No high-tech machines, no meticulously engineered nutrition plans, no cutting-edge recovery methods. His success was pure discipline, vision, and consistency. Maybe that's why his physique still feels so authentic, almost untouchable, even today. For many, Reeves represented the perfect marriage of art and sport. His body wasn't just powerful, it was visually stunning, the ideal bridge between bodybuilding stages and cinema screens. He became the living image of the mythological hero, bringing to life what had once existed only in legend. Outside the spotlight of competitions and movie sets, Steve Reeves lived a life defined by simplicity, discipline, and a few deep passions. His personal journey included 3 marriages. The first, in 1955, to Sandra Smith, lasted just over a year. In 1963, he married Aline Zarjarwicz, a relationship that endured more than 2 decades until her passing in 1989. Years later, in 1994, he wed Deborah and Engel Horn, who remained by his side until the very end in 2000. Despite these unions, Reeves never had children. Biographers often note that he preferred to devote his energy to personal projects, his health, and his lifestyle. That choice only strengthened the sense that his true legacy wasn't in descendants, but in the inspiration he left behind for athletes, artists, and fans around the world. One of Reeves' greatest passions was nature, especially horses. After leaving the film industry, he dedicated himself to life on his California ranch, raising and training them. The former Hollywood star, once one of the highest-paid actors in Europe, found peace in caring for his animals, living a quieter, more grounded routine away from the spotlight. At the same time, Reeves became one of the most outspoken voices against anabolic steroids. At a moment when their use was spreading through bodybuilding, he stood firm in defending natural training. He constantly reminded others that health and longevity should always come before the pursuit of ever bigger muscles. His position made him not just an aesthetic role model, but also an ethical one within the sport. He reinforced this stance at lectures and bodybuilding conventions, repeating again and again that the real victory was building a strong, healthy body without risky shortcuts. For countless young athletes, hearing that message from someone who had achieved everything naturally was deeply motivating and inspiring. Reeves also left his mark as an author. He published books like Building the Classic Physique, The Natural Way, where he shared his training methods, and Power Walking, which laid out his philosophy of fast-paced walking as both exercise and mental clarity. These works cemented his reputation as not only an icon, but also a teacher eager to pass on wisdom to future generations. In this way, his personal life reflected balance, simplicity at home, love for animals, discipline in physical care, and a mission to defend a greater cause in sports. Even far from the cameras and stages, Steve Reeves never stopped being remembered as an icon. In his later years, he continued to attend bodybuilding expos and gatherings of fans of Italian epic cinema. Everywhere he went, he was welcomed with enthusiasm. He often joked that, though he only played Hercules in 2 films, it felt like he had lived the role 10 times over. So strongly did the public identify him with the character. In 1994, Reeves took an important step in preserving his story by co-founding the Steve Reeves International Society alongside close friends. The group was dedicated to keeping his memory alive, sharing his training philosophy, and bringing together fans from around the globe. The project reflected his affection for his community and his desire to see natural bodybuilding appreciated. Even as he aged, Reeves never abandoned his active routine. He continued taking care of his health and living by the same principles of balance and natural training that he had always preached. His physique, even in his senior years, was proof that discipline and consistency can sustain results for a lifetime. To many young athletes, seeing him healthy and vibrant in his 70s was a reminder that bodybuilding didn't have to be destructive. But in March of 2000, news broke that changed everything. Reeves was diagnosed with lymphoma, a cancer of the lymphatic system. True to his resilient nature, he faced the illness with courage. Sadly, within weeks his condition worsened, leading to serious complications. On May 1, 2000, in Escondido, California, Steve Reeves passed away at age 74 due to a blood clot that developed after surgery. His death left both the bodybuilding and film worlds in mourning. The man who had inspired millions with his strength, discipline, and aesthetics had now become, definitively, a legend. His ashes were taken back to his birthplace in Montana, closing the circle that began in 1926. The boy born in a small rural town, who lost his father as a baby and was raised by his mother alone, symbolically returned to his roots. A simple yet powerful gesture that highlighted the humble beginnings of a man whose life story became larger than life itself. Even after his passing, Steve Reeves remains alive in collective memory. His name keeps showing up in books, documentaries, and tributes, always as the face of classic, natural bodybuilding. When we talk about the greatest names in the history of the sport, Reeves stands at the very top. He wasn't just a champion who held titles like Mr. America, Mr. World, and Mr. Universe. He was one of the biggest reasons bodybuilding went global in the first place. His image graced magazine covers, filled movie theaters, and inspired generations of young athletes to step into gyms with the dream of building a classic, perfectly proportioned physique. To this day, Reeves is remembered as the father of natural aesthetics. He proved that it was possible to build muscle, strength, and health without dangerous shortcuts. At a time when steroids were starting to make their way into the sport, Reeves stood proudly for natural training, discipline, and consistency. That's why, even decades later, his name is still synonymous with integrity in bodybuilding. What's even more incredible is how seamlessly he brought together sport, health, discipline, cinema, and pop culture into one unique journey. He wasn't just a bodybuilder, and he wasn't just an actor. He was a true icon of his time, someone who lived fully and left behind a trail of inspiration that continues to impact people today. His quotes still hit hard. "I don't believe in bodybuilders using steroids. If a man doesn't have enough male hormone in his system to build a strong, muscular body, he should take up ping pong." Or, "It's not about training more, it's about training better." Simple, direct, and powerful, words that sum up his entire philosophy of life. In the end, Steve Reeves showed us that true greatness isn't just in the muscles, but in how we use our discipline to inspire others. His body was a monument, sure, but his message was even greater. Taking care of your physique is also taking care of your mind and spirit. And now I want to hear from you. Which part of Steve Reeves' story inspired you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because your opinion really matters here on our channel. While you're at it, don't forget to leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and if you can, consider becoming a channel member to support our work even more. Oh, and don't click away just yet. On the end screen, you'll see another incredible story of a bodybuilding legend that you need to know. Go ahead, click it, and keep riding with us on this journey through the world of physical culture.